All right. There we go. I'll call the meeting to order. We do not have minutes from the last meeting yet, so we're going to pass over that. Oh, we will do the minutes from December 13th, non-public, that was somehow overlooked. I think it's Tammy's fault.
Of course it is.
Um,
It actually is. I did overlook them. I'll own that one.
Okay, and you're familiar with these, I mean, nothing secret. The board discussed an updated town manager park on the CRBI lawsuit.
Yeah.
We did, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
There you go.
thank you, sir.
We have some on Zoom that we've never seen before. I don't know if you want to find out who it is.
Oh. Someone on Zoom, CACON, is that Bill Kahn? All right, I guess we'll find out later. The next thing on the policy is the COVID-19 pop-up testing site at the Whale's Tail. Do you want to
Sure,
explain what's going on with that?
sure. So we have been contacted by New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services along with the Clear Choice MD. They would like to hold a pop-up COVID-19 testing site in the Whale's Tail parking lot. They presented a plan in which they will be using the back entrance to enter onto the property. They'll split into two lines. There'll be a testing trailer there in which then folks will come in, they'll get swabbed, they'll wait in their cars while the test result is being processed, or potentially that they could get the results online. I haven't gotten that clarification yet. I've asked Haley, who's the girl from Clear Choice, to kind of give us a little bit more details on how that works, but essentially you'll stay in your car, you'll get swabbed, and then you'll pull out the southerly entrance, is that correct? Yes.
Correct.
It's again, they're trying to get additional COVID testing sites in the area. We originally thought that maybe we'd go down the avenue of a special event permit and we had them fill out a special event permit. Spoke with the fire chief, Ron, and obviously the police chief to discuss any concerns that they may have, and none of them presented anything at the time. So we think it's probably the best route rather than have them go through a potential special event permit, because we don't really have a time frame exactly on when it will end. It's kind of based on the demand. I imagine Whale's Tail might want them out of there before the summer months, but so we think it's probably the best avenue for the Board of Selectmen. I've talked to Carol, the planner, and we think it's probably just best if the board make a motion due to the current pandemic to allow the operation to happen in the West Hill parking lot.
Quick question. Is this a one-shot deal on one day, or is it going to be a permanent site for?
It's going to be a semi-permanent site, a temporary site. They're going to be Monday through Friday, we believe 8:30 to 3:30.
I thought they're doing weekends also.
It's 7 days. a week.
7 days a week, yeah.
If
I thought
they-
the
if-
flyer said,
Yeah, 7, if they can get adequate staffing.
Right.
But I think it's
How
7 days.
will they advertise this? Will it be like through TV, through the town's website, et cetera, their own website?
oh, yeah, it would be on the DHHS's webpage, it'll be on the health and, it will be advertised on all the, COVID-19 resources that we have. I'm sure NHMA will put something out. I'm sure we could put something on our town's website if we found it appropriate. If you go on, if you Google COVID-19 testing sites,
It'll pop
it
up.
will pop up.
And what about the owner of the property? Are they happy?
We've gotten owner approval. We ensured that we got it in writing that the owners have approved the location. And again, I think it's just a resource for this community rather than have to drive north or south, with the way of the world right now, to have it at our fingertips. I think it's good for the community as a whole.
And just for full disclosure, the Wales Tail is not getting anything out of this. They are reimbursing us for the electric use that's gonna come out of the food service building, which our electric use in the food service building is zero, so it'll be easier to figure out their portion. Other than that, there's nothing in it for us. We let the snowmobiles park there all winter. They inquired with us about doing this. We didn't think it would interfere greatly with the snowmobile parking, traffic, etc. And we don't get anything for that either, but we're happy to do it. But I just, full disclosure, don't consider it a conflict of interest.
If there should be a snowstorm, who would be responsible for plowing the area around their facility?
They are,
They are, and they assume the liability, I assume, associated with that.
yes. Yes, they are carrying insurance for everything they do, and have us as a insured. Yeah.
Right. I'll make a motion that we approve the request.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I see that the CACON is unmuted. Can you identify yourself just so we have it for the minutes?
Yeah, is that me?
Yes,
Yeah, Bill Kahn.
thanks, Bill.
All right, perfect. The next thing on the agenda actually is a inquiry from Bill regarding the West Street project. With the expenses sent to Bill?
Yes, I did send it to your email, Bill. I don't know if it's his correct one. It's what Butch had in his contacts, but I sent it to you about an hour ago.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Okay.
I haven't looked at, so,
It's okay, we can read down too.
okay.
Why don't I do that? Why don't I just read down the expenses?
Sure.
To date, all right, the Nelson bid was 807, I'm not gonna call cents off, but in dollar amounts, 807,946. Paid to Nelson was 113,396. Paid to Calder was 11,407. Paid to Coleman is 547,937. Paid to KV Partners is 149,138. The total balance due, and wait, I'll go back, there was some legal costs, but that came out of the legal budget, not the West Street budget. There's a balance due of 391,703. Most of that is to Coleman. So is there anything else that you specific that you wanted to ask us, or do you want to take time to look at these and talk to us later, or what?
I
So
think-
what's the total? What's the total over on this? What was the bond?
There wasn't a bond taken out. It looks like money was appropriated over a series of years. So it looks like in 2016, the town appropriated 80,000. In 2017, the town appropriated 500,000. In 18, 100,000. And then at some point.
We talked about
we
water and
talked about-
sewer
yeah.
fees would be brought into this because so much of the project was related to water and sewer.
So that totals about 850 together.
So you got to come up with some money then somewhere, right?
Well, the amount that we were projecting to come out of water and sewer fees will certainly have to be adjusted, but above that, there's still other money that we'll need to come up with. Yes,
Is there a lawsuit pending on this case?
there is a lawsuit pending on this case. That's, I guess, outside of this summary, because there's a lawsuit of Nelson against the town where he's looking for us to pay him, and there's a lawsuit of the town against Nelson, and we're looking for him to pay us.
Damages? For work
Yeah.
not completed and the fact that there's a major overrun here?
Yeah,
But Nelson bid this thing at 800 and something thousand. And you guys are in way over $1 million already. I mean, he bid this thing back in 16 or 17, right?
yes.
18, did it? So who's going to be held accountable for this? You guys, don't tell me you had a big plan to take money out of this and that. I mean, you had a plan to pay $807,946 for this job. Plus, I'm sure there was going to be some change orders. But this thing's way out of line, way out of line. And the buck's got to stop somewhere. So, I mean, we paid KV Partners $149,000. Where does he come into play?
You mean, what was his role?
Where's his responsibility come? He interviewed the first contract you had and said it was a good go. And it didn't turn out so good. And now where are you going to get this money? I mean, if you take it from something else, that means we're missing something. One of my main reasons here is every time we get a tax bill, it's because somebody's spending money. Why can't we watch what we spend instead of always trying to figure out, how we're going to, pay our taxes? It's getting to a point where I don't know how you're going to keep going in this town. Somebody's got to be responsible. I mean, what Butch Burbank say about this? Nothing. Was he asked about it? Why you run over so bad? No answers.
I mean, we
And I'm
knew,
trying to put you on the spot, OJ. I just want to know, how much money can this town keep throwing out? I mean, you got a brand new town manager. You're throwing her in a can of alligators. How's she going to, I'm glad I ain't her. But, I mean, when does the point come that you ask questions? People go in there and ask questions and you go on the blacklist. The minute
okay,
you ask a question on a blacklist, and I don't really care if I'm on a blacklist, but what list, but somebody's got to be accountable for that overspending. And I think I don't know whether the buck stops with town manager or the buck stops with you guys. And you can say the legal costs come out of the legal, but the legal's going to West Street regardless. It's another money that was spent, on West Street.
correct.
So I don't know. I'm kind of lost at it. I mean, is the engineer taking any responsibility?
We have pursued various avenues in dealing with hiring Nelson to do the job was a mistake. We have pursued avenues to alleviate the cost of that mistake, and we're still embroiled in a court battle over that. So let's just say that, to say that we haven't taken any action on doing anything or not asking any questions is highly incorrect. We have done that, we're continuing to do that, and we will continue to do that. What we did not do is put West Street on hold until a court case was settled, because West Street needed to be redone. So we forged forward with the project. We got a much more qualified company to get in there and do that. Unfortunately, we had to go back and redo some of the mistakes that Nelson did. And of course, prices of everything, as you know, has increased since this whole thing began. So we're not shirking our responsibility. The buck stops here, and I will point out, you say the taxes keep going up. The amount of money we raised in taxes with this last tax bill was exactly the same as it was the previous year. So taxes didn't go up. The town portion of the taxes did not go up.
Valuations went up, so taxes did go up some.
No, I'm not talking about valuation. I'm talking about. the
I know, but
total-
I'm saying your total tax, no, I know how it works. We're getting way off where I want to be anyway. But
Well, wait, I want to make the point because I say this over and over again, and it becomes very unclear, and people do not understand that regardless of what your house is worth or what the taxes were last year, the dollar amount raised to fund the town this year is exactly the same as it was last year. How that dollar amount gets divided up obviously changed because of the assessments, but the dollar amount did not go up. So any discussion about, taxes going up and spending and all of this stuff, we're as good or as bad as we were last year with the whole thing. Just to put that into context.
yeah, okay.
With that being said, we are underfunded with West Street, and we will solve the issue.
But let's go back. Where was the questions 2 years ago?
They were being asked.
I never heard any in any meetings being asked about where this thing was going, why it was running over so much.
With Nelson or with?
Yeah, I haven't heard nothing much about West Street. I mean, everything come in is, what are we doing? Nobody ever said nothing about, well, we're $200,000-300,000 over budget. I mean, wouldn't that have came up in one of your meetings?
I believe it did. With some of Butch's updates, we were updated that this was when we signed the bid with Coleman, the most recent bid. We knew that bid was higher than what we had agreed to with Nelson. but
Correct,
Also knew
correct. I know that, but I'm going back. And I know Butch's big line was, we don't want history. Well, you got to get the history before you can move forward. And the history is, there should have been some questions asked about how much money we were spending over and above. I mean, we didn't even have a resident on that job, a resident engineer. Nate watched that job. I mean, we didn't have a resident engineer, and we probably should have had a resident at least when the lines were going in. I've never ever seen this, when some that's going on, that we have a resident engineer right on the top. I mean, I guess, go back and look at your numbers. You go back and look at when we did up a Pollard Road, look what the cost of engineering was on that, with the resident engineer on a, that's nothing but taking out gravels, putting in gravel, And look at, look at the sidewalk job. I mean, look at the cost of the engineering on that job, and nobody's held accountable. How long does this go on?
So is your suggestion, I'm trying to read between your lines here, Bill, and it'd be easier if you just said it. Should we be hiring a
I
full-time?
want to know. No, I'm saying what you need is look at the town engineer you have there today, because I think there's something going on there with a lot of money moving around. That's what I think. So you don't got to read between the lines no more. That's exactly what I think. I think you go back and look at the sidewalk job, you're going to find out the engineering on that job was about half what the job was to do it. And you're going to find out how much you spent up on Paul Road on engineers is going to scare you too. And we've been talking about this for 10 years. Well, since Butch Burbank came. And he ain't there to defend himself. So, I mean, I've been in there and said things to him, but like I say, he's not there to defend himself tonight. So I guess it's mute now as far as he is concerned. How, to get off the subject a minute and stay on the engineering subject, how much have you guys paid him just from South Peak in the landing for site review and stuff? Do you know?
I do not.
You want me to tell you?
Sure.
Planning board paid him $18,000. The homeowners paid him $36,000. Remember when I asked you for that stuff? How much they had paid over there?
Yeah,
And that's what they paid. And, you know, that's basically raping the taxpayers. Them people are their taxpayers too, just like somebody in town. If you go in there to get a permit and you got to spend that kind of money up front just so he can answer some questions, but yet he let West Street just go the way it went, you know? I mean, I would think he would have been right on top of West Street if it was falling apart like it was, you know, the job. Don't you?
I believe he was. He's the one
He
who
was on
brought,
top of things.
correct.
If he was, he sure was really right there. Yeah, I guess 150 grand, he was on top of it. I'd have been on top of it too.
Yeah.
On top of the billing. But anyway, that's what I am. I think somebody needs to be held accountable. And I think it needs to start with him. And I guess Butch Burbank ain't there, so we can't really hold him accountable now, can we?
Well, I don't know I don't know how to answer your question, Bill.
How about the town manager? You got any ideas?
About how to hold Butch accountable?
No.
Oh.
About moving forward. I mean, do you see
Well-
any? Yeah,
I think moving forward, and I don't want to speak ill of, Butch, but I think moving forward in general, I'm going to take a different approach on things than most likely Butch did. I can't speak to how he managed this project. I obviously wasn't here to witness it myself, but I can say that I have more of a financial background than maybe Butch did, so maybe it will be easier for me to kind of interject myself in some of these things.
what do you got left for lawsuits? Can you tell me that? Well, I'm right here. Well, I got the floor for a minute. How are we on
Janine
lawsuits?
Wood, Chief Smith, CRVI, Nelson Communication, Joe Chenard.
I thought we were wrapping up the CVI one.
I don't know, I've never said that.
No, I know you didn't. I'm just asking you.
Yep, no, we're not.
No. How about the Chief Smith one? Is that one going to come to a head? Don't know that either, huh?
I mean, we're not gonna be talking about the instances, but none of these are gonna be imminently gone away.
Have we got any court dates?
We do. We filed a motion on January 3rd related to the CRVI case. And we're hoping to get a response to that motion by the end of the month. And then we have a date for the next step in the Janine Wood case, which is January
26th.
something, at the end of January will be the next step in that case. Chief Smith is out into the future at some point, and Nelson out in the future, and Chenard, we're waiting for a response from the appellate court.
So, all right, I got just one more question on West Street.
Sure,
So if we ain't raising no more money in our budgets, right? This year than we did last year, is what you're saying, with it running the same?
no, that's not what I said, but go ahead.
What did you say then? Thought you said we were running the same, we no more expenditures. I guess my question is, where you're getting $300,000 out of something that we were going to use for something else, correct? Am I correct with that part of it?
We're gonna have to fund $300,000, yes,
Out of somewhere.
out of somewhere.
And you're
And that
talking
money
about,
could always be used for something else if it were available.
but when we made it available, it must have been for something else, wasn't it?
It wasn't specified exactly for West Street, to answer your question, yes,
It was specified for some sewer project, though, right? Or something?
or something.
Yeah, but I mean, my point is, if we vote at town meeting to put this money somewhere, and then we got to spend it somewhere else because of somebody's carelessness, it just doesn't make sense to me. How long can we keep doing it? You know, I mean, we got 4 or 5 lawsuits going. I mean, we setting records and stuff that we never had before in that town. And I know we're growing, but it ain't growing that fast, you know, I mean, it ain't fast than we were in the 80s.
Well, I think you're implying that we just overlooked and allowed West Street to happen without any oversight, and we're,
Well, I'm not saying that, OJ, I'm not pointing fingers at you. Don't get hurt.
well, you're saying that
You
about
had
the
a town
engineer.
manager. You guys always sit, you say you gotta have a town manager. You had a town manager for 9 years, and basically all this guy did was spend a bunch of money. And we've been in there a million times talking about it, and we get the same story all the time. I just sit here and listen to your new town manager. Her little presentation on the nature land was longer than Butch Burbank's done in 4 meetings put together. I mean, I just can't see, we got all this business going on in town, and the meetings, you're just putting fires out, you know?
Bill, if I could add something, you know, coming into the game late, obviously, I've played the numbers over the years in my past professional life. And looking at these numbers, you know, it's not right. I mean, it's something that's been done. Can you rectify this? Possibly a court decision in our favor where funds would come back to the town will help alleviate some of the shortfall here. But certainly with the new town manager going forward, you scrutinize it more. I asked the question publicly, how much have we paid the town engineer over the course of the past year? To date, I have not received that information. I did not ask it of the new town manager. I asked it of the planning department, and nobody could give me an answer. But we paid that firm quite a bit of money. And
I just, 36,018, Jack. For the
yeah,
planning
Jack,
portion.
we got that email. The board got that email of the expenses to the town engineer. It's in your email.
no, Tammy, this was the total. This that only represents the money paid to the West Street project for that engineering firm. But again, you heard me, baby Bill, at the last meeting too, indicate what is our policy when we go out, we get professional services. I maybe not want to look at the low bidder, but I want to see at least 3 bids come in when we do things like this. Karina was going to look at our procurement policy to make sure that that happens. I mean, I came from the public sector where we were mandated by law to do that. And again, you can't always go with the low bidder, you know that. You get what you pay for. That's the reality in life, whether it's a service from an engineer. But engineers, as you know, Bill, are required to carry errors and omission service. So if there's a screw up on their part, they or their insurance company are responsible for that. And again, I came into the game late here. I'm not blaming anybody, but I was not upfront when this occurred, when the contract was signed. I didn't do any investigation on the Nelson firm. I don't know Coleman. I believe that you've worked with Coleman possibly. But I think that, number one, it's happened. We can hope that the courts will rule in our favor and we'll get some of the money back. But I can assure you, with the new town manager and the board working together, it won't happen again.
So you're gonna put the engineering back out to bid? Is that what you're saying?
That's not Jack Daly's decision. It's the board decision along with input from the town manager and the planning department. If you're satisfied with the product.
No, I think, no. I think you're wrong there, Jack. I think you make the policy. If you make the policy, that's gotta happen. The town manager handles it from there on, I believe. I don't believe it's, I think if you guys got a policy, she's got to follow the policy, but she's the manager of the town.
I agree with that, Bill, but I think that the staff, you know, that are involved should have input into the ultimate decision. If I was going to do a fire police issue, I'd certainly confer with the fire chief or the police chief. You know, none of us here are omnipotent and know everything about everything. I tend to know a little about a little. So, you know, I look to others that have a lot more.
Yeah, I know, you gotta do that, Jack. I ain't getting down to that. I'm just saying, you know, you guys' job is to set policy. Hers is to run it. You know, and I look in there and it looks to me like the policies were never even followed for the past years. And we've been in there 100 times talking about this different stuff, and it just never goes nowhere. So, you know, I mean, if criticism hurts, I guess so be it. That's what it's all about. You know, I mean, I sat in that seat. I know what criticism's all about. And you gotta live up to it and take it and do what you gotta do. And I just think somebody ought to look at some of these numbers once in a while. All the numbers. You know, we got guys making decisions. Look at the planning board. That's basically run by a lawyer and an engineer. They got no skin in the game. They don't pay no taxes. You know? I don't know. That's just how I feel. So I guess you know how I feel, and I just hope you can do something about it without, you know, spending a bunch of money that we could have used on another project. Now I guess I'm done. I've got no more to say.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack. I apologize. I just looked through the legal and engineering expenses for 2021 year to date. It was dated on September 29th, and it was sent to OJ. And OJ, I asked it to be forwarded to me. So I just sent it to you, Jack. So I apologize. I assumed it was sent to all of us. It was not.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, next on the agenda. The updated COVID-19 policy for employees.
Yes, so at the last meeting, we discussed the changes to the CDC guidelines and the 5-day isolation and quarantine periods. So we have taken the CDC's language and essentially incorporated it into our old policy. I've also cleaned up the policy a little bit. Some of the stuff was no longer relevant. The emergency orders, the emergency provisions to FMLA, those type of things ended. So I took reference to those policies and those, you know, legal stuff out. I also made a definition. I just cleaned it up a little bit, but essentially it is the CDC's guidelines
Okay.
verbatim. I did forward it to Chief Morris as well, and he looked at it and didn't have any suggestions for change.
I will say, I think it was Tuesday after the meeting that New Hampshire DHHS followed
And
suit
right.
with CDC.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Okay.
They have a couple tweaks that are different in regards to like household contacts versus, you know, non-household contacts, but it's essentially the 5-day period.
Okay.
And I think that's well written.
I'll make a motion to adopt the policy as presented by the town manager.
You're on mute,
You're
Tammy.
muted.
I haven't seen it.
It was in your email from Friday with the agenda and stuff.
I saw the agenda and I got the town manager's report.
It's in that same email.
3 attachments there.
Agenda. Oh, yeah, there it is. I didn't even go that far. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
A stopwatch run.
It sounds just like that.
Yeah, this is well written. Thank you, Karina.
No problem.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Just a couple other things while we're signing. We had discussed in non-public about Nate's vacation time, which our policy states that you can't carry over into a new year, vacation time, that you take it. We worked with Nate because his department had an operation, another operation. One employee had an operation, another employee had an operation, another employee had a baby, and there was one other issue.
He was dedicated to West Street all summer.
The West Street project,
Yeah,
right, and we worked with him to agree, he can, like, don't take vacation now, and you can take it next year, so this is just a memo from the town authorizing that, granting Nate Hadaway to carry over his vacation time into 2022. And I don't think we need a motion, we've already agreed to it. We just need to sign it. We have a memorandum of agreement between the town of Lincoln, Woodstock and Campton for the,
Prosecutor.
yeah, whatever.
Dispatch, wasn't
prosecutor?
Intermunicipal.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. this is the
it?
one
The
I'm trying to
dispatch,
read.
correct?
Well, that was with
we have two
Woodstock.
different ones.
Oh.
Two different ones. This is for the intermunicipal agreement for regional municipal prosecutor.
Okay,
I assume that you've both looked at this.
Apparently there was an amendment that was recommended by, was it the AG's?
The AG's office. So essentially, every contract and every intermunicipal agreement has to go to the AG's office to get their rubber stamp on it.
Yeah.
When they went to the AG's office, they suggested a provision, you'll see it included in there in the email, where it essentially says there's no real property involved. Campton houses all the real property because Campton has the computers and the desk and all that stuff. That's where she's housed. So it essentially says that Lincoln and Woodstock aren't responsible for any of the real property that's all housed under Campton.
Oh, okay.
So that's just something that the AG's office suggested we put in there.
All right, so this is basically the agreement that we
It's
Yes.
essentially identical.
already signed.
Yeah,
It's just with that,
with just the real property provision.
do you want to make a motion to sign the amended intermunicipal agreement?
so moved.
You're on mute, Tammy.
She seconded it with her head.
I seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Date is January 10.
think, Karina, I suggest you run with the two signatures you have because it'll be another week or so before I'm in to sign anything. So,
That is fine.
great.
Okay, if you want to sign that one.
Of course.
Okay, this is the one you were talking about. This is the dispatch agreement with Woodstock.
Yes.
Is this, did we have a 2-year contract before?
Yes.
Okay, so this is updating. When does this take place?
January
First,
1st,
okay.
2022.
Was there any difference in the language that's in this?
No, the only difference would be the amount from 1 year to the next.
Okay,
Because there was this increase in next year, but this year remains the same.
so this year is the same as last year,
Correct.
and then that increases for 2023,
Yes.
okay? Tammy, did you get a chance to look at this?
Yes, I've seen it.
You have, okay.
Good question. Chief, I noticed in that contract, it indicates that there may be other costs associated with the operations that Woodstock would be responsible for a portion of. Is that like hardware, computers, et cetera?
It is, and the increase for 23 is in relation to the records management system that we're looking at moving to at the beginning of 23, and that would be their portion. Basically, increase reflects their portion.
All right, thank you.
All right, this just needs to be signed by the
Well, you
chairman,
and I'll witness it.
and you can witness it. But first, do we want
You want to raise your right hand, and swear?
you want to make a motion to accept the contract?
I'll make that motion. Memorandum of agreement.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now you can witness it.
Thank you.
So. Signed. This is signed. Right, that's all the signed stuff. Then. Right,
Hey,
oh, go ahead.
who's on the iPhone, so we have it for the minutes?
Can the person on the iPhone just let us know who they are?
Probably Butch.
Guess not. Okay, never mind.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is to look at some changes in the water and sewer tap assessment form. And we talked about, there was a column column, whatever, called additional sink, and we're changing that to additional sink or dishwasher. That's for a second dishwasher in the same unit.
Correct. From what I've been informed, with by Carol is that when they were doing the water and sewer tap fees and they were going in, there were some residences that had like wet bars that had an additional sink and an additional dishwasher to go with it. And we had a provision for the additional sink, but we didn't have any way to add a calculation point for the dishwasher. So we spoke to Nate about how much gallons a dishwasher uses, and he says it's very minimal nowadays with the high efficiency, appliances. So we decided just to do the 1 point equivalent with the additional sink. In addition, you'll also see that we did, at one point you had residential and commercial hot tubs and jacuzzis. We thought rather than characterizing them as a commercial or residential, it really should be based on the size of the hot tub and the gallons that are in the, that they can hold. So we did, some research onto what the average 6 to 8 person hot tub holds. And it's really around that 500 gallon threshold is what really pushes it to the 8 person, the 10 people. It's over that 500 mark. So we felt anything that's 6 people or under or in that average weight is more residential, so to say.
All right, and I think those are good, changes, because you're right, we have some residential properties with, 8 and 10 bedrooms, and they have a jacuzzi that's
12 person jacuzzi, why not, right?
That's, yes, certainly not more, it's certainly more in line with the with a commercial than a residential. So if we do it by gallons, then the use of the tub isn't up for, deciding, well, is it commercial? It's either 500 gallons or it's more than 500 gallons.
Right, it's really all about how much water it takes to fill it up and how much sewage is going in when you drain it.
Correct. So,
Just discussed at the planning board.
no, this was not discussed at the planning board. Any discussion on that? Does that look good?
Well, if we had water meters, we could meter the amount of water that's going into these hot tubs, because they're getting emptied on at least a weekly or twice weekly basis on some of these STRs, because they're getting washed out and then refilled. So it would be nice if we had water meters. So, we could charge for the water going into these hot tubs, but since we don't, this looks okay.
You won't have to worry about it after tomorrow. They're all gonna freeze up.
So, all right, I'll make a motion that we make these 3 changes to the water and sewer tap fees.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and the other thing that we needed to sign tonight was the letter of credit that we've talked with the new owner of South Peak as far as building a water tank. And we've worked out that he's going to put off building the water tank that's required, even though he'd like to, start last month. He's gonna wait and let us get approvals and plans and build a bigger, higher one that will solve multiple problems in the town, and he will pay a portion of that. And when he went to get a bond for that, because there was so many ifs, like if the town gets approval, and if the town builds it, the bonding company just said no. So they've come forward with a letter of credit that's basically money, that same amount of money locked in a letter of credit rather than a bond. There's language on that. We needed to sign that tonight so that they can get going. If we were supposed to have this on the agenda last week and I forgot. I don't have copies of that, but I believe Jane had printed those out. Maybe after the public participation, we can take a 5-minute break and I'll go get that. Tammy, did you get that by email?
I
Yes.
think Jay made copies of it for everyone in your folders. I think it's in your folder.
Oh, was it in there?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
She just gave it to me, yeah.
Then I misspoke. I guess I didn't get down that far. Our attorney has looked at it. Our attorney handling the suit with South Peak, even though he's not involved, looked at it because in signing this, we're going to take the homeowners off of the lawsuit, off of our counter lawsuit. Because there's nothing else we're suing them for.
Is it the homeowners and FC loan?
And FC loan, correct, correct.
Thank you.
I had one concern. I think I raised it when the town engineer was in the room. And you just brought it to mind again. That in my opinion, I don't believe that we should be designing the water tower, water tank. It, in my opinion, per the original agreement with Centex, it was their obligation to design and build it. And I think that obligation falls upon the shoulders of subsequent declarants, not the town. I don't really believe that we, the town, if you remember, the town engineer was sitting over there and I disagreed with his opinion that he was going to do that. So I think that's one thing that we as a board, I mean, and it ties into the conversation from Mr. Khan this evening, that, we're responsible for certain items. The contractor or the developer in this case is responsible for all of it. Certainly, we're going to have some input because we know where we would like it to be located. We've talked with the Forest Service, and I believe we're in the queue for March's, is that right, Karina, March's decision by the Forest Service to put this tank up there?
I don't know.
Yes,
This spring meeting.
yes. And I don't know if that's March or April, but it's whatever this spring meeting is.
I think
That's
it's the end
correct.
of March, I believe.
For them to put it on their, like, their SOPA, the schedule of.
Yeah, they're
proposed
fast
projects.
track,
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
And so, again, I think we as a board have the responsibility to decide or put the burden on whoever is responsible under any agreement that we sign or any existing agreement.
You know that I totally disagree with that. The responsibility of Centex is to build a
325,000.
325,000 gallon tank at a location on their land. Okay, it's their responsibility to build that, and it's their responsibility to hire an engineer to do that.
Mhm.
And they could go do that. He wanted to do that.
Mhm.
As a favor to the town, we would like to, instead of spending the money, his money, on that tank, is to build a bigger, higher tank that would provide service to the Village of Loon zone and to the main pressure zone, as well as the South Peak zone.
Right.
All right? If, in doing that, it becomes our responsibility to build that tank. And it becomes our responsibility to design it so that it does feed the Loon, Village of Loon tank zone and the main pressure zone. I don't see how we can ask a private developer to plan, design a tank based on all of the changes that we want to make to the tank that they required, but make them do it, but then it becomes our tank. And what happens when there's like, we don't like this and they don't like that? It's their engineer, but he's working for us. I want our engineer to design the tank that's best for us and will work for us. And he's gonna pay a set amount of money regardless of how big we build it, where we build it, what pressure reducing valves we need, where we're gonna move things. I mean, I just think that would, first of all, I don't think he would do it. Second of all, I think even if he did, it would convolute that contractual relationship that we don't want someone else being in charge of an engineer that's designing something for us, and we're like a third party to our own design. I don't understand the,
But we're gonna take over ownership of it once it's put in service.
right, it will be our tank.
Right.
And our pressure reducing valves.
I'm well aware of that. If you
Yeah,
look at the original basis of design, he or they have a fee associated with the construction and or the design work. We're talking, go back to West Street, we're talking an engineer's fee of $149,000. If he wants to pay for us to develop that, because it was his obligation or their obligation, am I correct? A $325,000.
At a lower
Excuse me, Tim.
elevation and just serve his community, yes, that was
Right,
his
so
obligation.
he had a financial obligation, and there's a cost associated with that financial obligation for the engineering services to build that town. So if we extrapolate from an 800,000 gallon tank to a 300, say, okay, you can pay us X amount of dollars that you would be obligated to pay, and our engineer would do it.
Mhm.
If we can extrapolate that money from. If not, maybe it should be combined fees.
The
Isn't that
agreement,
what's happening?
Tammy?
Part of the money that he is going to give the town to contribute to our larger, higher tank includes his engineering money. So we're getting his engineering money to pay our engineer to build our tank the way we want it built without cutting corners. Not to say that he would cut corners, but if it's our engineer and our tank, we know there's not corners being cut. We know that all the components are going to fit with our water system. We know what it is. And he has money that he's contributing, and in that money is his engineering money. So we're getting his engineering money and his construction money that he would have had to put out anyway for a smaller, lower tank.
If you look at the amount in the Weston Sampson report, it doesn't even come close to it. Doesn't even come close to it.
The amount for his tank?
Weston Sampson said what, almost 3.2 million? Well, I don't have it in front of me.
For our tank.
For the tank,
Well, ours is bigger and higher
well, I'm well aware of that.
than his lower and smaller one. So his will be less money than what we have to pay. I guess I don't understand.
But what it would cost him to build that tank, including site work, including plumbing, piping, including engineering, including the actual tank. I mean, whatever that estimate is that it would cost him to build that tank is what he's given to us, including the engineering.
That's his
Right.
estimate, right?
We've agreed to a process to finalize that number, but the engineering is included in that.
I'd like to look at the Weston Sampson report again and see what their numbers were.
I don't. I would like to wait until we get updated numbers on the actual tank that we're gonna build, not some theoretical tank, okay? And then do what you said,
Okay, that's fine. with
which
me.
is what we've already agreed to do with Mark.
Right.
But,
With today's numbers, not numbers from, what was it, 6 years ago, 4 years ago?
well, no, Weston and Sampson came up with a theoretical number without,
Oh.
With four different scenarios. Remember,
Right,
A,
right,
B, C,
but
D.
right, but that was from a while ago. But anyway,
It was a few years ago.
engineering is part of it. It's all of it. It's engineering, it's site work, it's all of it.
Where are they?
And so,
Right.
All right.
Oh, Paul has his hand up.
Paul,
I don't- You're muted, Paul.
Give me a second, I don't want to barge in here. Look, the only thing that I'd like to say is that the town has built a couple of tanks that have helped the town somewhat, but they've always had problems. The one over here at Forest Ridge, the one over at the village, when we took off the pump station at Loon Mountain, there was issues. So I think one of the things that you really probably want to look at, or I would recommend looking at, is that, as Mr. Khan said, there's some accountability here. No matter which engineer or who you choose for engineers, whoever designs that tank and wherever they put it, that there are standards that it is supposed to meet. And if it doesn't meet those standards, then I think that there should be some accountability put into your language, put into the, the final agreement. I mean, the last thing you want is a tank put up that doesn't meet what your requirement is. And that has happened twice in the town. So I would just, as a taxpayer, I'd like to see you put some accountability language in there. Thank you.
all right. Is there a motion to accept the irrevocable letter of credit agreement regarding that tank?
OJ, on the second part of that, or actually maybe the second, just exhibit A, there's no amount in there. Do we need the amount yet? Where's that amount coming from? And are we really going to sign something with no amount on it? The drawing certificate. Exhibit A, drawing certificate, irrevocable letter of credit dated December 1st, 2021. There's no amount.
That is, what you're looking at is a sample, I believe, a sample form that they're gonna use, or we would use to draw on that letter of credit if needed.
Okay. So there's no amount in any of this. Is there an amount other than the gallons? I don't see a dollar amount in here. Am I missing that?
1.5 million, look on that letter, that exhibit.
Yeah, it's under terms. It's under paragraph 1, under terms. It says $1,500,000
Under D.
and 1.
Oh, yeah, it's on the irrevocable letter of credit under D, and then it's on the.
I see it. I missed it. I apologize. I missed it.
Okay,
No, I jumped right to the gallons. I see the gallonage above it and the gallonage below it, but I didn't see the number. Okay, did you make the motion, OJ?
I didn't, but you can.
Then I'll make a motion that we sign the irrevocable letter of credit agreement between the town and, is it Janco and South Peak LLC?
Correct.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Do you need my signature on that? Because there's a spot for it, because I can print the page, sign it, and then get it to the town hall.
Why don't you do that? so that all three of us, even if it's two separate pages, all three signatures are included.
Sure.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll print it, sign it, and send it over there with somebody that doesn't have COVID.
And do
Please.
you want to say that? All right, I think next we'll go into town manager's report.
Okay, so a couple of the items on my town manager's report, we've already discussed: COVID testing site, citizen inquiry, West Street project. The next thing is, so I've gotten wind that there's a petition going around town to increase the elderly exemptions. I outlined what it was below. I guess I'm questioning, was this brought up to the board previously? I guess I'm wondering, petition warrant articles always, in my personal opinion, have like a negative connotation, and I didn't know if this was presented to the board previously, and rather than go through the motions of a petition warrant article, is this something that the board would be in favor of, and it could just be put on the warrant versus having it be a petition warrant article? So I guess I'm more so looking for background information, but also didn't know if you were aware that this was in the works.
Well, there was a resident that asked us, I think it was via Zoom, but at a public selectors meetings to look at that. That there, with the revals, there were going to be some seniors in the community that were going to have a hard time, and we were asked to look at it. And, you know, it's probably something I should have done, and I didn't. You know, life gets busy, and I apologize for that, but I'm glad that you brought this to us, because I think it's something we should do. We've had more than one senior resident say that they're having a hard time. We should do what we can to help.
And if you look at the increases, they're really nominal. I mean, they're not, I don't think it's anything outrageous or radical. I think if anything, it like, you know, Tammy said, it's just going to support that sector of the community that needs, you know, the support. You know, I think if you look at what other communities are doing, it's not outside the realm. I looked at how many elderly exemptions you do give in a year. It's only 11. I mean, that's pretty small. So in my personal opinion, I think it's fair and reasonable, and just wanted, like I said, a little bit more clarification on it and just to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, we were asked to look at this, and I guess I was informed that the petition was going around like almost immediately after we were asked. I mean,
Oh,
I even
okay,
think like
yeah.
before our next meeting. I'm in favor of this, because in addition to the age guidelines, there's also income guidelines.
Correct.
So it's not just everyone over 65.
Right, you'll see that part of the proposal is to increase the net
Oh,
income,
oh.
but you know, only by $5,000.
Okay.
It's not like it's increasing it by $50,000 or.
I'm fine with just putting this on the warrant as a selectman's article, with or without petition.
How do you feel, Jack?
Yeah, as an old person, I think definitely, you know, should increase it, absolutely.
Wait, do you have to recuse yourself? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'll make the,
I think it's good policy. The citizens, the elderly citizens that live here have given a lot to this community over the years. And, you know, they shouldn't be forced to pay beyond their means. So I think this is good policy, good public policy.
I'll make the motion if you want, and I'll just spell it out so that others that know what we're talking about. From age 65 to 75, increasing the exemption to 65,000. From 75 to 80 years old, increasing it to 85,000. 80 years plus, increasing it to 125,000 with a net single person income of 30,000 and the net married income to 45,000. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
This going on the town warrant.
Yeah, to place this on the warrant.
The town can vote on it.
Yep.
On town meeting day. All right,
Yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. moving forward, just wanted to let you know that they did the final rule announcement for the ARPA funds. They have allotted for a lot more flexibility in how the money is spent. Just as a background, when the federal funds were first announced, it was pretty specific. It had to be for a certain category of things, you know, water, sewer, broadband, lost revenue, combating the pandemic. They've opened those categories up, allowing for a lot more flexibility. I know that we already have this slated for the water tank project, but just so you know, it seems as if the flexibility will not be so rigid moving forward. So if there is anything additional, or if we had any concerns about the water tank project, which I'm sure we would be able to figure out, but there is, they have announced the final rule and it seems to be more gracious to communities.
Can we use some of it for the West Street project?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would have to look into it. I actually think we could. One of the biggest changes in the rules was allowing the lost revenue category. Before, you had to go through a formula. It was a very specific formula where they gave you a certain percentage increase every year, and that was supposed to be what you gross every year. Your gross revenue would increase by that amount every year. I think it was 6% when they originally said it. Now they're giving a blanket. Anything under this amount of money could be considered lost revenue. So potentially, yes. You know, going back to the West Street, and I don't want to open a can of worms all over again, but there's definitely some avenues for us to look into on how to make up that difference, whether it's undesignated fund balance or it's additional increase in the water and sewer fees. You know, I know that we don't want to take it back to the voters and have them add more money to that project. I think we could create a way without having to go back to the voters to raise and appropriate more money. No problem. Next Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so the town office will be closed and there will be no meeting.
Yep.
Just wanted to make that
And
announcement.
we do have a meeting next week.
We do have a meeting next week on Wednesday for the joint budget committee with the town of Woodstock.
Correct. Is that here?
It is here, correct?
Yes, it is here. The selectmen will be meeting prior to the budget committee here.
Oh, that's what we were doing. The selectmen are
4:30.
meeting at 4:30 and the budget meeting at
That's
5:30.
why, okay.
That's why. I was
said,
like, why do we have
it's on
both
my
dates in
calendar
my
twice?
Yes.
Okay,
So we'll make sure we get that announcement, that agenda posted for our meeting.
4:30, got it.
Knowing Jane, it's already posted, just saying.
Well, she just got back, so she might be a little overwhelmed, probably by tomorrow. The last thing on my town manager's report is, we did receive a wetlands permit from Loon Mountain Corp for the installation of the new Seven Brothers lift. They're removing the old lift and replacing it with the new lift. We do have it here in the town office if you want to take a peek at it. You know, it's a couple 100 pages long, but you're more than welcome to peruse it in your spare time. But we did receive that this week as well. Also in your packets, this isn't included on my report, but you will get at the back, there is an updated expenditure spreadsheet. We will have one more pay cycle of 2021. So the bottom line figures might change a little bit. You'll see right now we have quite a hefty surplus. I spoke to Jonna about that, how much she thinks will actually come out of the next payroll run, or not payroll, excuse me, accounts payable run. We're guessing worst case or the highest case would be about 100,000. So we're definitely going to have, I would say, a 300,000 surplus for 2021, unaudited again. So.
Been on the job 2 weeks and you saved us 300,000.
Hey, I'll take the credit, you know. But again, this is the most recent. She printed it out today. You'll, like I said, there's one more run for all the remaining 21 bills. We're hoping to get it done next week. So. The last thing I wanted to bring up tonight, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, is I spoke to Tara, and I touched base with Tammy on it a little bit today. In regards to a warrant article for solar panels at the Kink Rec Center. So we call it Kink Rec, Kink Mountain,
Kink River.
okay, Kink Rec. I guess at one point, a few months ago, it was proposed that maybe we could raise and appropriate some money for solar panels to be installed at the Kink Rec Center for use in the future to, you know, help our energy costs for the future moving forward. The warrant article that I saw was for roughly $30,000. I know that the board hasn't had a much time to discuss it, but I just wanted to get it on your radar and we can put it on for the next meeting.
Are there, or isn't there a lot of grant money available for solar projects?
There sure is, you
I
know,
mean, would it be better rather than put it on a town warrant, hit the taxpayers for it to try to go after some grant money? Or maybe you might need some money as matching funds on some of these grants.
most likely you would, yeah.
Because I've seen some of them come across my desk. So.
Mhm. I mean, I
Most of the solar grant monies and such are reimbursements and rebates, if you will. So I think that was kind of the intention. Once we raise and appropriate it and have the money and it's spent, then we can apply for the rebates, or as part of the spending process, apply for those rebates. So I know there is a rebate process. I'm not, you know, super familiar with it. But that was kind of the direction I believe we were going to go in. Was a rebate process more than a grant process. And I do, just so you know, that Tara's estimate on savings annually, we will save about $2,100 in energy costs. So it's not small potatoes when you're talking the Kank.
So the payback period is 15
15
years.
years,
then.
right, return on investment. right.
And then, you know, what is the life expectancy of a solar panel? I mean,
Well, it's 15 years if we don't get any rebates.
okay,
And don't quote me on this, but I think I read in this, because it was months ago, we had talked about this. And I believe it was a 25-year replacement plan. But don't quote me on that, because it's been a while since I read that.
I think she's right around in the ballpark. In Campton, we previously looked at some solar projects and it was usually about a 30-year lease with the company. So it was right around that, you know, 25, 30-year mark.
and they're responsible.
And they would be responsible essentially, yes.
So would this be that type of thing where the company owns it and we're just leasing it?
It depends. I don't know the background to this, so I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because what I've historically have seen is yes, that the company owns it, is leasing the land. They have a, you know, like I said, a 30-year lease where they are obligated to maintain it. You know, build a road to access it. Well, we won't have to
I
build a
don't
road.
believe that's what we're doing. I think we're just putting our own personal solar
Putting your
panel
own-
roof of the garage there. And we're gonna own them and they're ours.
right, we get details just to make sure that we're
Sure.
going to own them. And
We've 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe we have to finalize our warrant. Not at the next meeting, but you know, we've only got a couple more meetings before we've got to finalize the warrant, so.
well, we should make a decision at that next meeting, which is why
Yeah.
I'd like to know what, you know,
What we're proposing.
make sure what we're proposing is to buy them and own them and not, no third party. And secondly, what grants are out there or rebates are out there to offset the cost, just so that when we're presenting it to us, to the budget committee, to the townspeople, that we can say, well, if it costs 30, you know, is the rebate, you know, 5,000, is it 2,500? Is it 10,000? What is that number?
This, can I speak?
Yeah.
This also kind of plays into, I guess, my theory on how we raise and appropriate money. This, in my mind, is also, if we were gonna move forward to raise and appropriate money for it, this, in my mind, is a perfect project that could be spent out of undesignated fund balance. So if it doesn't go through and it doesn't go forward, or if we do give rebates or something along those lines, then it rolls back into our undesignated fund balance, rather than have to be reappropriated at a different point or a bond close. So I'm always under the philosophy, and I know not everyone buys into this, that undesignated fund balance in my personal opinion, is better spent upfront at the town meeting process for the voters to vote on, and not necessarily at the tax rate setting process. I know that we gotta, every town does it, has to put money towards a tax rate to reduce it to a level that they're comfortable with. But I also think that funding things like a police cruiser or funding things like a $30,000 project, the money goes further here than it would at the tax rate. $30,000 or $50,000 on the tax rate is only going to take off pennies. $50,000 buys us a cruiser for the next 6 years. That's, in my personal opinion, money better spent that way. So, you know, we have a healthy surplus. It's not always going to be there, but with a rollover like we're going to have this year with a couple $100,000, it might be advantageous for us to look at different kind of outside of the box ways of thinking on doing some of these projects that don't affect the bottom line of the tax rate or the bottom line of the budget. That's all I have.
Okay, Paul, you wanted to say something about the solar panels?
Sorry about that. The only thing that I wanted to say was I read an article in Union Leader a little while ago that the PUC had eliminated the rebates and that the project for the solar needed to be completed by February. So you may want to look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely would like the
I'll
details.
definitely look into what we can get, what programs are out there, and I'll bring it to the next meeting for us.
The other thing in our packet, there's an update on the elections budget. Was that not calculated correctly the first time? I
No.
didn't compare it because I didn't.
At the budget hearing, or the budget committee meeting last week, one of the items, now you put me on the spot to remember what happened. One of the items in the town clerk's budget, or the tax collector's budget, was double inputted because it used to be a combined position. And then when they separated the two, they were accounting for it in both positions, where we didn't need to do that anymore. So it reduced slightly by, I think, $150 or $200. So it wasn't anything, you know, breaking the bank, but just to clarify, they took it out. Am I correct, Tammy, when I said that? Was it taken out of the elections budget?
See, I didn't make any notes. I didn't know we were taking anything out of any budgets, honestly.
It was very nominal. It was like $150.
This line item is showing here, it's an increase of $3,600.
No, but I'm talking about the change we made from what was originally presented to you to what the change was made at the budget
Right.
committee.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Paul, remember.
Go ahead, Paul.
It was presented as a reduction that she had figured out in the, I think it was the payroll. I'm not sure what portion it was, but Karina's right. It was like, it was a small amount, $150 or something like that.
Is it the tax collector or the town budget?
I was tax or town clerk. I think I didn't make the note, but I remember when she said that she had changed and she hadn't let somebody know. And that's what happened.
Oh, you know what? I remember you saying that now.
I think it went from like 300 to 150 or something.
Right, yeah,
It was very
it was
small.
it was a minor adjustment.
I think it might have been, it was election. It was election. Number 3, election.
The elections budget went down
It was her materials is
$200.
50 to 300. So it went down $150. So the total now 66.75.
Okay.
Fine.
I forgot all about that.
All right, so that's why we got that.
That's why you got the
So
update.
that's the update that I have to put into this budget. All right.
Right, yeah.
Just wanted to understand what that was. All right, and
Also in your packets, you'll see that Lisa gave you an update on the short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we've received to date, 151 have registered to date. Last year in 2021 was 396 were registered, and we've received 151 in the first 10 days. So not too bad.
Nice.
and 14 have responded, but saying that they'll not be renting their unit out or have sold their unit.
Right.
And I would think that 14 more people would come online.
One would think, right. At least a good majority of them, so.
All right, and we did get a question from someone about the short-term rentals. Was that, and I know, Is that responded to? It
Um,
was addressed to the selectmen. I didn't know if.
oh, yes, I responded.
Oh, you did?
I did, yes.
Excellent. All right. I didn't have anything else. Jack, Tammy?
Yes, of course I did. I just, I know I'm catching a lot of flack about, oh, my taxes have gone up, my taxes have gone up. And it's hard explaining to folks that it's not the taxes that have gone up, it's the assessments that go up. And there's not a darn thing that we can do about that. There's no way we can make people sell their houses for less so that the assessments don't go up. However, when I put together notes for when people say, oh, how do you expect me to pay such high taxes? Well, the taxes are not high. They're very low. Our tax rate right now at 1054. There's 221 towns, not cities, towns in the state of New Hampshire that have taxes. There are a few that have zero taxes because there's nobody lives there. So out of the 221 towns that have property taxes, 16 towns are lower than ours, 16. And I mean, I could name a few of them, and the only one that even comes close is probably Bartlett, but we're talking Dixville, Irving's Grant, Freedom, Hebron. I mean, it's not Lincoln that sees, 20,000 visitors in a weekend at Scottish Clan, or even, 10 to 15,000 visitors, February, Christmas vacation week, or 4th of July, or whatever. And our taxes are 1054. We're doing pretty darn good. There's 204 towns, not cities, towns that have taxes much higher than us. And right now, at 1054, 11 years ago was the last time we went lower than that. It's always been higher than that. And that is the cutest puppy I've seen in a long time. So I just wanted to put it out there again that I know Jack and OJ and I, and now Karina, but we're doing the best we can to keep this town running that isn't just a town of, 1,200-1,500 people. I mean, we have a whole lot of people here on every weekend or weekdays now, vacation weeks, 4th of July, all summer. I mean, we're doing the best we can to keep the budget as low as we can and still take care of our residents, take care of the visitors, and maintain what we have. I just wanted to say it again. That's all. Thank you.
All right, is there anything else that you had, Tammy?
No, there wasn't. Thank you.
All right, then I'll open up for public participation. And Paul, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just quickly like to address Tammy's comment and say that I'm sure people are very happy that their properties are worth more. But if I take a look at my mother, who's 90 years old, almost 91, she's gonna have to pay $500 more for taxes. She doesn't want to sell her house. She just wants to live in it and wants it to be as economical as possible. And that's why, the elderly exemption was so important for her. Along with that elderly exemption, I'd like to ask the board, did you take a look, or would you take a look at the veterans tax exemption and see if that needed to be updated or modified so that the veterans might get a different amount as well? I know Gene and I just looked at the elderly, but we didn't look at the veterans, so.
That's a good suggestion, Paul. Thank you.
Karina, I have a question for you. The real property that you were talking about, as far as a regional prosecutor that would be included in the amount, what was the real property consistent of? And how many dollars was that?
There was,
Yeah.
there was no provision previously that spoke to real property. So.
Right. So there's gonna be a new chart, real property, like you said, computers and stuff like that, that's gonna be included in the fee now, or
No.
including the agreement?
No, it says that that's the responsibility of Campton, not Lincoln and Woodstock, because they house the
Okay.
prosecutor.
Okay, I thought you said that would be divided up between Lincoln and Woodstock?
No, it's Campton's responsibility to house and equip the prosecutor with the real property.
And the question, OJ, I have for you is the 300,000 that Billy Collin was talking about that you would have to raise in addition to what have you come up for West Street? Where would you be taking that money from, those monies from? Any idea?
We have not discussed that yet. I've talked about water and sewer being a portion of that,
Water and sewer tap fees?
tap fees, yes.
Grant.
Possible, like Jack, again, we haven't talked about it, but like Jack just mentioned, the grant money, ARPA funds that we got would most likely qualify for that.
ARPA might do as well, okay. All right. And the last question I have for tonight is, and I know I'm probably the only one who complained about it or made comment, but the loon traffic is still an issue. I have a business that I have to get the loon every day of every week. And on a weekend, it's no different. And I pay my people to sit in lines of traffic, just as everybody else does, I'm sure. But it certainly does not please me to have to do that. So, and I've talked to other people and they say they've made complaints and I don't know where they are, but it's gotta be frustrating to see that. And I noticed this past weekend that they were also parking on the side of the Kangamongs Highway from where the parking lot was up towards the village. So it's gonna be frustrating for people who want to get to the village, Clearbrook. But for me personally, as a business person, it's frustrating trying to get your help back and forth.
Well, if I may, after last week's Board of Selectmen meeting, there was a committee set up consisting of Chief Morris, Ron Beard, Karina, Brian Norton from Loon Mountain, Paul Bolio, who's the district manager from Lancaster for the DOT, and myself. We did have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to discuss that, but unfortunately, Mr. Bolio, who's a vital part of the grouping, came up in sick. So there will be something done. To respond to the cars that were parked on 112, I believe that each one of them got a present to go home to pay the town of Lincoln $50 for parking up there. Chief is in the room shaking his head, yes. So thank you, mass people, I can't say it. Anyways, it is tough. I mean, I, as a resident living up in that area, my wife got stuck in that traffic going to visit and walk with friends in South Peak. So consequently, it's not only impacting people like yourself that own businesses, and it's frustrating for people that have made time specific for their children to be dropped off at Loon for lessons, etc., paying substantial dollars and being late for lessons or not being able to get them. So it's not only impacting full-time residents, it's impacting the guests that come here. I mean, it can be a public safety issue. We know that for a fact. So, and it's not something that's going to get kicked down the road. We will work on it again and try to come up with something that can at least alleviate some of it. Are we going to alleviate all of it? I doubt it very, very, very much. But at least we can do what we can control.
No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to, I just want to tell you that, I mean, it's very frustrating. I mean, one of the things that I really do hope you look at is the entrance of Loon Mountain. The entrance to Loon Mountain with the additional changes that were made with the new bridge and all was that it narrowed down the throat of the entrance at Loon Mountain. There used to be the old hairdresser place that was, just you came into Loon on the right. That was a lot wider in there. And we used to be able to turn cars and then be able to turn them out on the other side. So there was a lot more turnaround room to get, so you could almost get 2 lanes coming in. So maybe, I know I know it was just done, but this is kind of like a product of guess what, we did this and, it's not working to the best. So maybe, maybe the state would be willing to look at that and do some sort of modification to that.
And Paul, with your experience, Loon is looking for people to work in that department if you'd like to come back.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
if Ball Bears was still alive, I would come back.
I know what you're saying about the entrance, and that was a fight that we fought in designing that entrance, and Loon was a big part of it, that they wanted that entrance wider. The original design for that bridge that the state approved was narrower, and they.
I know.
Okay, I mean, we got a concession from them. You know, maybe if Bolio's there and he can see that that would be part of the solution, we could go back and get what we originally wanted, which was even wider than what's there now, but again, that was one of those things we fought for, and we got a piece of it, but it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, I think, Loon's only gonna get bigger, and we all know that. I mean, there's gonna be more slopes, there's gonna be more people coming there. And, I think it's important to for the town to try and resolve this issue before the next wave comes in, before the next, we're in the building wave now, kind of, sort of, but I mean, there's gonna be more trails, gonna have to, and it's important, I think, for the board and the state and everybody to look at that, because it's gonna be tough on everybody. It's not just me, I know that. I mean, I can't imagine sitting in that traffic my wife sends me for a coffee in the morning from the village, and by the time I get it back, it's cold. I mean, they're Clearbrook homeowners. I mean, people at Loon, it's gotta be tough. And as you well say, I mean, I'm sure that emergency personnel, they could probably get through, but it might even be tough that way too. So it's a pretty important project, I think, to tackle. And I'm sure you know that, but thank you for listening.
And Paul, one of the things too, I mentioned, Loon looking for personnel. I know that they have 9 buses that they weren't utilizing last week because they didn't have drivers. Because as you know, they're required to have CDL. And consequently, I mean, they're short, I know, for at least 7 drivers. So it's the labor issue that's impacting. I won't say that's the cause of it, but it's certainly impacting because they can't run the buses as frequently as they did to get the homeowners across the street, hundreds of them. And they're now taking up parking spaces. And again, with COVID's driving people to get to the outdoors. So there's a perfect storm almost, Paul, and it's not going to get any better. We've got MLK weekend coming up this weekend, which is a massive weekend up here. So we'll hope we get.
Well, I mean,
something before the February vacation.
with respect to the buses, I mean, I gotta tell you, private contractors used to fill in all the time. I don't know at what point some of that happens. Private contractors can fill in for buses, for security. I mean, and if I think about the past and Lincoln and the Ice Castle, I mean, I can remember seeing the sheriff's department and state police down there waving people in. I mean, it was just a simple matter of what it cost. And sometimes you gotta take a look at that and swallow the bitter pill and try and hire what you can and do what you can. Again, thank you. I'm done. I gotta go back to that puppy.
All right, any other public comment? Jim?
Yeah, I don't want to bring up the Owen again, but just out of curiosity, how much did West Street cost the town above and beyond the second bidder who was capable of doing the job?
This second bid was higher than the first.
Yeah.
And we agreed to that price. And then there were complications, unanticipated complications related to digging up what the first contractor had done and redoing it because it was not done correctly. I don't know what that number is.
No, I mean, originally, when it came out 3 years ago.
The second bid from Coleman,
No, not Coleman.
No, Coleman. Nelson was the first. Coleman was the second.
The very first time it was bid.
Nelson bid and won the bid. And there was a low bid by quite a bit.
at the 807.
807.
And then when it went out again to the new contractor, the original contract sum was 930. So it went up $130,000 from the first bidder, Nelson, to the new bid, Coleman. So that alone went up 130, just the original bid.
But I'm talking about when it first went out.
Yeah.
You had 3 bids. You had Nelson and 2 other ones,
At least.
at least. What was the difference between the town paying the cost of West Street right now versus if they'd have hired the second bidder and not Nelson?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know what the second bid was, the next bid up.
Jim, a question for you, just because I'm not familiar with it. Did we accept the low bid at that? Was Nelson the
Yes,
low
you
bid? He
accepted a
was.
low bid.
Nelson
Okay.
was the low bid.
The second bid, I believe, I know who the second bidder was, and he was quite capable of doing it. Because they just did the Main Street a loop in the summer before, doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, in hindsight,
No,
we hired the wrong
horses out of the barn and the
we
doors
hired
wasn't
the
shut.
wrong contractor and the lowest bid is not always the best bid.
Right, but my other question is, unless I was informed wrong, when Nelson was putting the manholes in and Coleman took over, that the manholes that Nelson put in were in the wrong place. Were they put in where the engineer designed it at that time?
Can we discuss that with the litigation that's ongoing? I'm not sure we can discuss that.
I don't know. You're asking did Nelson put the
Manholes,
manholes in?
did they
in-
put them in the way the engineer wanted to put it?
We don't believe. I don't know how to answer that question with an ongoing case, to be honest. But there's dispute. That's part of the whole dispute
Oh, okay.
was
That's a good way to put it.
it or wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
All right. I guess what I'm getting at, an engineer firm, like Billy said, did West Street. I mean, did the sidewalk on Apollo Road. He originally went around every manhole. Then he redesigned it the way it is now. Are you gonna ask that same engineer firm to do the water tower?
No,
How many times
Weston
is he
and-
gonna
no.
design it?
Weston and Sampson's doing the water tower.
Huh?
Weston and Sampson is doing the water tower. They're the same ones who did the water treatment plant and have done a lot of our water
Infrastructure.
related engineering. They know this water system
Yeah, all right.
since 90, when did they build the water, the treatment plant, 91, 92, something?
Yeah.
So,
But I was just wondering if that same engineer firm was gonna do that too.
no.
No,
All right.
OJ, can we take a look at the West Street expenses? Because there's something I don't understand. Do you have it in front of you?
I will. Go ahead.
2/3 of the way down, total expenses paid to date, the 983 number.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? If you add up the paid to Nelson, Calder, Coleman, KV.
I can answer that because I asked John that same question.
Thank you.
There were additional contractors that we had to hire throughout the process, some incidental, some other stuff. What I listed was exactly what I got in the request from Bill Kahn. Bill Kahn asked specifically for Nelson, Coleman, Calder, KV Partners. There were other contractors that we used throughout the project for other things that add to the total 983.
Okay, gotcha.
I only outlined the expenses of what I was requested to do.
Gotcha.
Any other public discussion? Do we have anything that we need to discuss in non-public?
I don't have anything.
I mean, the only legal thing we had to do, really, in my opinion, was that sign that letter of credit, and that'll get to the attorneys tomorrow. Okay.
I
Then,
can say publicly, just so you all know that my CRVI deposition for tomorrow obviously has been postponed. And I don't know, I think he was gonna email me with that new date. I don't think,
he did.
oh, I haven't opened it yet then. When is it? Oh, yeah, he did. I saved it in my calendar. I'm sorry. I'm a little out of it here. And for some reason, I can't find it now. Oh, the 19th.
Right, which is the same day as that joint board meeting, but you'll be done by then.
Yeah, it should be morning. I should be done by then. Yep. Yeah, but that's not a non-public issue. I just,
All right, I'm gonna just keep looking at bills, but we can adjourn the meeting if you want. Oh,
Thank you.
no, actually, I didn't ask Chad or Ron. Do you have anything to say that?
No,
No?
good.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
and one more time, can we just, whoever's on the iPhone, can you unmute yourself and tell us your name for the minutes? So we have a record of the meeting minutes. Guess not. And is Bill Kahn still on? Bill, can you still hear us?
Get on mute.
I know he's on mute, but I didn't know if he was still there, if he'd turned the screen off and walked away. I'm trying to get a hold of somebody to, one of the cemetery trustees, to join us for the budget committee meeting this Thursday, and I'm having a hard time. So I just thought of it just now. I should have asked him earlier when he was on, but if he could join us via Zoom, but I'll keep trying. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you all.